It's another beautiful day in Washington State, and we welcome each and every one of you back for another amazing afternoon. That's right, Power People. You are right here at Bremerton-Kitsap Public Access Studios in Bremerton, Washington. And you're watching Afternoons with me, the one and only Ash Black. Today we have a very special treat for you folks, as we will be sitting down with a very impressive gentleman, a person who is a true testament to determination, a person whose journey has been marked by resilience and tenacity, a person who has dared to dream big and pursue their passions with unwavering dedication. That person, my friends, is Washington State Representative Greg Nance. And if you don't know Greg, let me tell you, he's a man who looked at our local ferry schedule and thought, this needs more running. Greg's upbringing in a strong union household has instilled in him values of hard work, determination. He excelled in debate and academics, earning scholarships to the University of Chicago and Cambridge University. He's also the co-founder of MoneyThink. And recently, he's caught headlines everywhere following the introduction of House Bill 2492 to address challenges in the Washington State ferry system, which might make him one of the most wanted men in all of Kitsap County. He's an advocate for youth mental health and environmental conservation, and he's achieved recognition for completing the World Marathon Challenge, which is 7 marathons, 7 continents, 7 days. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to like, share, subscribe, and comment. You know whose house you're in. Let's give it up for Washington State Representative Greg Nance. Greg, thank you so much for joining us today on Afternoons.
Ash, great to be here. Thank you.
I appreciate you. The first question on my mind and on everybody's mind is, who is Greg Nance? But let me preface this a little bit. I very first met you and really didn't know much about what you did. We shook hands. I was like, this young man is really upstanding and talented. And I thought to myself, I want to know more about who he is. And I was actually talking to my friend Doc Blackwell, and he told me, man, you really got to pay attention to this cat. He ran across the United States. And it turns out that's true. You literally ran across the country. Tell me and the audience a little bit about who Greg Nance is.
Yeah, number one, I'm tickled to be here. It's an honor to be with you today. I grew up here, and I absolutely love Kitsap and our community. I've got a wonderful family that supported me every step of the way, had great teachers going to K-12 public schools here in Kitsap, great coaches, great mentors, a big sister and a little brother that really supported, encouraged, and challenged me to be the best version of me. And I feel like I'm the luckiest guy in the world growing up in this community, and then now having an opportunity to serve as state representative, fighting for our community, fighting for youth mental health, fighting for reliable ferry service, and really working so that everyone has an opportunity to live the best version of their life too. I'm the luckiest guy, is how I'd introduce myself.
You've tackled quite a bit of stuff in your career so far: ultramarathons, legislative work, and now taking on the ferry systems. Tell me a little bit about this journey.
Yeah, so I finished up high school, Bainbridge High School, back in 2007. And I got the nonprofit bug. I realized that I wanted to make a difference, and the way that I thought I could is getting involved mentoring young people. And so for the last almost 18 years, I've been a youth mentor for Kitsap youth, helping folks first apply to university, and then as like a volunteer debate coach, volunteer running coach, just trying to be an active presence. And I realized that the biggest challenge a lot of young people were dealing with were mental health issues. Similar to the issues that I faced when I was a high school student. I lost my granddad when I was 16, and I didn't know what it was at the time, but I was dealing with anxiety, I was dealing with depression, and like a lot of young people, I was looking for relief from that, and I began self-medicating with malt liquor, and then vodka, and then Percocet and Vicodin. Just trying to feel good, trying to feel normal. That journey and the 7 years that followed have really inspired my work as a youth mentor, my work as a nonprofit leader, and now my work as a legislator, where even kids that have great teachers, great families, great coaches can still fall down. And how do we create the the right circumstances, the right supports to really lift up every young person. And that's been really a key learning from my journey, is that a lot of young people can feel alone. And I think our role as compassionate adults in the community is to remind young people, you're not alone. We're here to support you, and we're here to invest in your upbringing and your growth and your development too.
You know, I think it's so important that, you bring up some of the challenges that you faced as a youth, because the truth is we all go through these challenges, whether we want to admit it. And, obviously there are some folks out there who manage to, avoid going down those paths. But, I'll say in writing my episodes, I try to avoid, the subject of, previous drug use or alcoholism, though it is a path to empowerment for some people. It's generally out of respect. Tell me a little bit about why you go out of your way to let people know that that's part of your story, and what it means for that person at home who's watching this today and says, I can't achieve.
Yeah, I went through some tough stuff, and while I was going through it, even though I had great people all around, I felt really alone in the course of that. And as I've talked to a lot of other young people that have struggled, a lot of us have felt alone. And part of that is, I think we as a society have struggled to talk about, in our Instagram or Facebook culture, a lot of it's the highlight reel that we see from our friends or our family. And it can be really tough being open and honest, but hey, I'm going through a rough stretch. For me, it was losing my granddad was really the initial catalyst.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like I could really open up with my friends, even though I had a lot of great friends, about the challenges that I felt therein. And so, yeah, I think those of us that are in a place in our journey where we can be open and honest about what some of those lowlights and some of the lessons that we've learned. And that's really what I try to share with young guys and gals that I have the fortune of mentoring, is those low lights, those low moments are actually where a lot of the best lessons in life are. And I can say that, and a young person is like, man, this is overwhelming, it's so stressful, or there's so much pressure. Being open and honest and sharing things that I learned in those low moments and how that guides me all these years later, that I think it gives young people a little bit of hope that this is a tough thing. I am going to get through it. My buddy Greg, my teachers, my mentors, my parents, my brother, sister, they're there for me, and I'm going to get through this. And I want young people to remember that, because there's way too much depression, anxiety in our society. There's too much self-harm. There's suicidality. There's substance abuse. There's really tough stuff. I want every young person to know they're not alone, and that we're there supporting each and every one of us.
And you've really been pushing boundaries. So let's talk a little bit about this support for the youth, because it seems like, following some of the trials and tribulations that you went through, that is definitely where you focused and centered your work. You spoke about helping students navigate the system, and it sounds like that led to your work with MoneyThink. Why don't you talk to me a little bit about MoneyThink, because I found it very impressive that you did this so early in life, and I don't think a lot of folks realize that this was something that was even recognized by President Obama. Was it 2008, 2010?
2012, yeah.
2012. Yeah. I apologize for getting the date wrong there. But it sounds like it's of vital importance. And, for me personally, when I went through that journey, it was a struggle. I didn't know how to navigate the system. Tell me about that work and what you've learned from it.
Yeah, so I'm a public schools graduate here in Kitsap, and finishing up at Bainbridge High School, the expectation was, you'll go off to college. I was really lucky. Both my parents are in public service, mom, longtime union social worker for the state. Dad helped start the Seattle Public Defenders Union. Both of them, it's about service rather than just about maximizing their paycheck. The result was very tight budget for me to go to college. And so I knew I've got to get a scholarship in order to make any of this work. I was really fortunate where there were both really high standards and a really high level of support. So I get that scholarship. I'm able to go to my dream school, University of Chicago. And my assumption was that, hey, every kid has both high expectations, high standards, and then a really high level of support to make their dreams happen. That actually is not the way every child grows up. I was really, really lucky. I didn't even realize it until I was already off at college. talking to friends, I learned that one of the things that each of us had in common at this university, every one of us could point to a mentor who made a really big difference for us, that believed in us, who wouldn't take our excuses, but said, no, you can do this. I'm going to push you to help you make it happen. We realized, look, let's pay it forward. Let's actually get involved in our local community on the south side of Chicago. And we started mentoring local high school kids, many of whom didn't have someone in their life pushing them and supporting them to actually go off to college. We kept hearing, I can't go to college. People like me don't go to school. We can't afford it. And it's like, man, you were one of the smartest people I know. And if you have that dream, I'm here to support you, and we can demystify each and every one of these steps, help you actually apply for the financial aid and the scholarships that it'll take for you to go to college and make that dream happen. And it was just 5 friends working together in my dorm room back in 2008. I'm literally a teenager, what do I know? But because I didn't know what I didn't know, we go for it. And in short order, coming out of the financial crisis, we were able to really build an impactful model, first on the south side of Chicago, and then in short order, actually expanding that model to Los Angeles, to New York, to Boston, to Florida, to Seattle, literally across the country, 30 different communities, coast to coast, until we got a call in early 2012 from the Obama administration asking to recognize us as a champion of change at the White House, March 15th, 2012. And just, got to pinch yourself that how is this even real? That this is this little nonprofit we've been running out of my dorm room, and yet here we are. And my message for young people is, look, if you have a dream to make a difference, go do it, because your dream will happen with energy, with enthusiasm, with persistence, and you can change the world. And you do it with working with your friends on a problem you care about. We need more people stepping up, and I was really lucky that I was in the right place, right time, with the right friends. We were able to do something pretty special. And 15 plus years later, it's pretty remarkable that we're still making a difference, able to now take it to that next level. And so young people listening in, old people listening in, if you've got a dream, take those first steps, because you can make it happen.
It feels like to me, hearing you say those words, though, that the dream is only beginning for Greg Nance. What an accomplishment that must have been to be recognized by the president. Why don't you tell me quickly how that made you feel? Oh
man, it was one of these moments where I'm talking to my friends and we can't believe it. It's like someone's pulling a prank on us. Like, this can't be real. And it was so wonderfully overwhelming in the best way, where we had so many just impactful moments with our students over the years previous, and just thinking about each and every one of the students that we had the honor of working with, and thinking about the student in the back of the class who didn't believe in himself on day one, and by the end of the semester had applied to university and had a great opportunity to go make his dream happen. It was like this flood of nostalgia of just like, we made this happen together. And that's what I learned in all of it, is that we're going to win together, and it's really working together. The best team wins.
Yeah.
So if you got a dream, you can make it happen when you put the right team together.
Well, and I see that in this is that, as you're standing there and being recognized, it's recognition for everybody that was involved, that you couldn't have felt personally responsible for it, but that maybe you felt responsible for seeing those dreams come true for so many. Speaking of the success and dreams of so many, you've been taking on some new challenges, and here again, changing the world, but not just for yourself, you're changing the world for Kitsap County. So I'm going to raffle off a few numbers on this flyer I found at Coffee Talk this morning, but let's talk about some of this. So in 2024, and these are secured funds. This is all money that has been secured for these programs. It is being used now to benefit these programs. $1.3 billion for reliable ferry service, $2.5 million for the Eagle Harbor Maintenance Facility improvements, $44 million in terminal preservation improvements to equip Kingston, Bremerton, and Bainbridge terminals with needed infrastructure. We've got $1.6 million for the Warren Avenue Bridge, $5.9 million for View Ridge Elementary School, $4.9 million for SR 104 realignment, $16 million for Gorst, and $31 million for SR 305 enhancements, improvements to the way that we live our lives here in Kitsap County, and fundamentally changes that bring that hope a little bit closer. And I really want to focus on the ferries because this was an exciting subject for me when I first saw it pop up. A lot of folks may not be aware of this, but I had a career before this, and it required me to ride the ferry system at least 6 to 8 hours a day. I was on Seattle time, and the Bremerton ferries, though they're wonderful, it was hard to work a full-time job in Seattle and come home. And I think a lot of what folks don't realize is that, there's a lot of people in Kitsap County that have to make that commute daily because there is a big difference between working in Kitsap County pay rate and Seattle pay rate. And, that's a whole nother question. But when folks are having to make those sacrifices to travel back and forth, they expect ferries to show up. They expect captains not to smash ferries into terminals. The joke I used to make is if the ferry can be 5 minutes late, why can't I call ahead and let them know I'm running 5 minutes late? And, I think it's just such an immense challenge, but you're taking it on. And, what it really translates to is not billions of dollars for our ferries. It's income for our families. It's income for our mom and pop shops that are here in Kitsap County that rely on those people to spend that money there. Tell me about why you've taken on this job, and tell me about how you're just kicking ass.
I'm a lifelong ferry rider, and for me, the ferry was always, it symbolized togetherness. I would ride it with my family. We'd go watch Mariner games, the Kingdom, or go to the zoo, Woodland Park Zoo, to look at the zebras, which are my favorite animal. We'd go to the aquarium. We'd do something fun. It's also how my dad commuted into Seattle, 5 days a week for 32 years, putting bread on the table and then sending 3 kids to college. And so you're right on. It's not just a luxury for us. It's a vital link to the city and to opportunity over there. It's how neighbors get to work, get to school, get to medical appointments. It's vitally important for the health of our community, for the future of our community. And a big reason why I stepped up as state representative is the ferries don't work like they used to. When I was a kid, they ran on time. You could set your clock to it. The ferry would run on time. It would sail on schedule. Today, that's not the case. We've already had 1,069 canceled sailings in the first 3 months of fiscal year 2024. So reliability is a big issue. Half of those canceled sailings are due to staffing shortages. So we don't have enough people working the boats. We need 26 vessels to fully operate our ferry fleet. We're down to 15 operational vessels, way off the 26 we need. And so they're really, really big challenges. And I don't actually think we've always had the right strategy or funded the right strategy. And so I'm really proud I get to represent Kitsap on the House Transportation Committee. And as a committee, we actually help build out the strategy for how we're going to get the ferries back on track. And I get to tell stories from our neighbors in Bremerton, our neighbors up in Kingston, our neighbors on Bainbridge, and the challenges that our community faces. And you're spot on. It's a ton of small businesses across Kitsap rely on folks riding the ferry over to visit those small shops, those small businesses. And then a lot of us go to the city for work. There's great opportunities in Seattle. We know that. There's also really good healthcare above and beyond what you can get in Kitsap. Too many of our neighbors rely on this and are not getting the service we need. Our ferries are an iconic state institution, and we've dropped the ball. The state's got to do better. And I've hosted 7 fix-our ferries town halls across the county now.
Yeah.
And at the course of those town halls, getting to hear directly from neighbors about the issues they face. And it's been really inspiring getting to hear directly from neighbors about how the ferries has dropped the ball and then ideas for how we can really pick it up and move forward together.
I feel like I feel like you're a great listener, obviously, but I feel like a lot was learned from these town halls, and I'm sure we're already discussing, a lot of that. But what can be expected in the years to come for our transportation? Because I've heard you speak on that, in several different places, most notably regarding the ferry system, but also recently with Kitsap Mental Health. I saw a video where you were discussing, the need for that to play out into larger modes of transportation. Yep. So what are we looking for in the future there?
Yeah, so I'm not only am I a lifelong ferry rider, I'm a lifelong public transit user. And so I grew up riding the Kitsap Transit bus to get to the ferry terminal. That's how my dad, the access bus, that's how he would get to the ferry. When I went off to school in Chicago or England, riding trains or metro everywhere. And now I take the light rail every time I go to the airport. So we need more folks in public service that are making budget decisions who actually ride public transit. Because I think there's a very different view as a public transit rider versus someone that is only driving their car. And of course, we need to build a Kitsap that works for everybody. A lot of our neighbors can't drive. It's really expensive to have a car. There's some of us that have disabilities that prevent us from driving. I want to make sure that we have an equitable society where everybody gets to where they need to go, to the grocery store, to church, to work, to a medical appointment, to school, wherever you're going. I would love for Kitsap Transit to have the funding to help you get there. And that's one thing I'm really fighting for, is we need as a state to send more dollars back to help particularly rural communities like Kitsap really develop out a more mature transit system. And we have excellent leadership here in Kitsap across the board. Kitsap Transit is really a shining example where my colleagues on the House Transportation Committee, they want to hear about the special sauce that has enabled us to start a fast ferry from nothing just a couple years ago. And now it is the leader in the state. We're building ridership. We have a great on-time performance. We're doing excellent work. However, for too long, local taxpayers in Kitsap have had to pay out of pocket because the state was dropping the ball with really poor ferry service. That's not good enough. And so one thing I'm really proud of, we were able to take our state allocation from $1 million up to $5 million to totally offset the costs of running the fast ferry from Bremerton and from Kingston, so that our neighbors don't have to spend extra money on our taxes because the state dropped the ball. And so I'm a big public transit guy. It's a big focus. And when we talk about what kind of society we want to build, what kind of community we want to live in, I think everybody should be able to get around with or without a car.
Greg, I only have time to ask you one more question, unfortunately, but why don't you tell me what's on the horizon for Greg Nance? What's in your future?
Yeah, so we just finished a really productive legislative session. I'm honored to work with Senator Drew Hansen, Representative Tara Simmons, and I feel like we did a really good job for our community here in Kitsap. This moment now, it's about letting neighbors know, here's how we're working for you, here's how we're delivering, and I want questions, I want complaints, I want concerns, and smart suggestions as well, because this is it's an ongoing process. A lot of these are big, multi-year, multi-million, or even multi-billion-dollar investments. My top priority is working to fix our ferries. We also have to mobilize mental health, and that's from young people in our public schools today. That's supporting our first responders, supporting our teachers, supporting our elders in a loneliness epidemic, and really working to secure the investments to take care of mental health across the peninsula. And that's not only Kitsap Mental Health Services, which you mentioned, which plays a vital role. It's also investing in our Suquamish Health Center on the North Peninsula. We just secured a $4.5 million investment to get that really rolling. That's just the beginning. And we've got a really strong team representing us down in Olympia. Now it's letting neighbors know about the good work that we've done and then getting good ideas so that we can keep that going as we go forward too.
Well, Greg, knowing you, I know for a fact that you've never shied away from giving one of your constituents the opportunity to approach you and have this kind of conversation. And so I really encourage anyone who's watching at home to take the time to reach out to Greg. He's the man who can help you with that problem. And, I can't think of anybody who could do a better job of representing us here in our good state of Washington. So thank you so much, Greg, and thank you for coming out today.
I so appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you've seen here today, every journey begins with a single step. If you're ready to make that first step, Afternoons with Ash is a great start. And remember, the conversation doesn't end here. Keep the momentum going by liking, subscribing, or following us online, and by sharing your thoughts and messages on our Facebook page or at our Gmail, afternoonswithash@gmail.com. The one and only Afternoons with Ash. And while you're here, Don't forget to explore the diverse range of shows available for free right here at Bremerton-Kitsap Public Access. Together we can continue to spark change and make the voice of the people heard. Until next week, this is Afternoons with Ash. I'm Ash Black.